I'm going to start off by saying you're right, it is a little bit nuts to think about archiving email in PDF. And in fact, when I first heard this idea for myself, I thought it was a little bit crazy. But let me give you a little bit of background and then tell you about why it's not and why it's actually a very big and outstanding need in the library community specifically that I'm part of. So my name is Chris. I am the Associate Dean for Digital Strategies at the University of Illinois Library, which is happy to remind everybody that we're the second largest public research library in the country, and we have a very large digital repository service. I also have an appointment in the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, and I'm going to be telling you about one of my grant projects here. Before I get to that, I'd just like to mention my background actually has nothing to do with PDF. You would not be surprised to find that, I'm sure. And in fact, nothing to do with technology. I was trained as a social and labor historian. Got interested in archives when I was wandering through the north of England, in my late 20s, and just fell into a world that was really fascinating for me, and worked for about 20 years as an archivist at the University of Illinois. So given that background, Berlin is a wonderful city for me to visit. I'm really happy that I had a day to explore yesterday. And I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about something I discovered when I was wandering around yesterday. I was trying to make my way over to the Brandenburg Gate and Checkpoint Charlie, got a little bit off track, and I ended up wandering by something called the Willy Brandt Forum. Those of you who are German, and maybe many of others of you know, Brandt was mayor of Berlin. He eventually was Chancellor of Germany. He won a Nobel Peace Prize, and had always been a hero of mine when I was going through my historical studies. So I wandered in to look at the small exhibit, and at the end of it, I saw Brandt's desk sitting out. If you open a drawer, you'll find that he had signed his name inside, so there's a lot of archival authenticity to that. We know it was his desk. He signed it. He attested to it. And more to the point, there was a really fascinating letter laying on the top of the desk. This was sent by President John F. Kennedy to Brandt on August 18th, 1961. And if you know anything about German history, you'll know that August 1961 was the date of the Berlin crisis. And this is when Kennedy was promising to Brandt that, we will do everything it takes to protect Berlin from the Soviets. We begin airlifting in supplies and all of this and that. Well, why am I telling you about this? Because after I got back to my hotel room, I said to myself, I wonder if that's been digitized. So it has been digitized, and it will not surprise you to know that it's in a PDF file, and it's highly accessible and usable. I didn't check that. I'm going to check that. In fact, I plan to, but I found this all out about 11 o'clock last night when I was Googling around. So why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because I've been concerned for a very long time that we try to find a way to do the same thing for email. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So if I can figure out a way to advance the slide here. Okay, I've just trying to give you a little bit, that's supposed to be hidden, but it's not. So in any case, my background in this is coming from a set of reports that I was involved with about 5 to 6 years ago or so. And as I pointed out, PDF is the document format of choice for distributing authentic, accurately rendered, and useful copies of digitized documents. Nearly every digital preservation system in the library community that's out there uses PDF. Most have rendering engines built right in, including the one that we have at Illinois. And PDF is really part of the infrastructure, if not the DNA, of how academic libraries work. We have anywhere from 10 to 15 million downloads of PDF documents per year from our library. But what about today's records? So as an archivist, the question of how to best preserve email has long occupied my attention, and these are two reports that represent that. In the one on the left, the red one of my colleagues from the Library of Congress insisted that we include an email to PDF project because she felt that PDF could help meet some needs that we have in the archival community. With some funding from the Andrew Mellon Foundation, we began to undertake a conversation, which is how I met Duff, how I became involved with the PDF Association. So this first phase of funding, supported by the Andrew Mellon Foundation, drew together a group of academic and industry participants with the primary goal of answering a relatively simple question, which is, does it make sense to archive emails in PDF? And if so, what are the basic functional requirements that such a project should cover? In November of 2020, the group that you see represented here met at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., to both discuss these topics and to get to know each other. You know, as a member of the academic community, I'm not used to industry collaborations, but it's an area that seemed to me ripe for discussion and an area where I really wanted to begin to engage partners, because we have problems in the academic community that we cannot solve on our own with our own technologies. So it was a new experience for me, you know, being trained as a historian. The last thing I ever expected to do was be sitting in a group with a bunch of technical experts thinking about the PDF file format, much less defining one. But we, and by that I mean the archivist side of the conversation, shared our needs, and we primarily stated those as needing a method to produce and preserve the evidential value of email messages. In the federal government, in most organizations, there's a strong need to preserve evidence about what's happened in an organization, why decisions were made, and what led to those decisions being made. And email is a good way that you can do that. And on the industry side, the PDF Association and Duff in particular, and others who were involved, shared with us specific ways in which the PDF file format structures might meet our needs for evidential value. This all culminated in issuing a Phase 1 report, which both answers those two questions that I had talked about, articulating a rationale for EA-PDF, what we called at the time, and then the conceptual requirements for what a PDF-based container format would look like for mail. One of the other things that developed as we went along here is the possibility of a PDF mail-specific viewer application based on the assumption that there would be both a core representation of email and PDF that would be viewable in a legacy viewer, but also the possibility for enhanced viewing with specific enhancements based on the EA-PDF file format. So in essence, the report answers the why should anybody care about this question. And, you know, I freely will admit at first the idea of archiving email and PDF can seem a bit bonkers, at least until you begin to think about it. But there are three reasons why it makes sense to use PDF for email. The first of these is simply that PDF can do something that archivists really want and need, and something they really care about, which is to fix what is an inherently fluid format into a defined package structure that preserves evidence about the original sender, recipient, and message. In other words, email is a form of historical evidence. It's everywhere, and it's something that PDF can be used to capture and sort of fix in time in an interrogatable format. The second reason why PDF is a good format for email complements the first. Most archivists have not yet come up with a solution to archive email in the existing technologies that are out there. On one of my other research projects and research grants, I have some funding to seed email development work using open source technologies, and as part of that, my colleague Ruby Martinez surveyed archivists in Illinois to ask, well, what are you doing about your email? And we got 68 responses, and you can see from this about 60% of them haven't even acquired email, even though they said in the survey that they wanted to and needed to. About 33% of them or 32% of them have it but haven't done anything with it. They've just put it in a bucket. And then you have, you know, the remaining 6 to 8% that have done something. So there's an existing need out there. We've rerun this survey with workshop groups who have been coming specifically to training that we provide on email archiving. So this is an audience that has a defined interest in the topic, and you can see even here, about 2/3 of them really have made no headway with the existing tooling, which is in our community. So there's a large outstanding need. I'll actually be giving a version of this presentation in Glasgow on Wednesday. We'll rerun the same survey. This is at the International Digital Preservation Conference, and I'm expecting results that are similar to this, even though you have the Harvards, the Koenig's libraries of the world and places like that there. They may be a little bit better than this, but my suspicion is not terribly. So that kind of begs the question, why aren't archivists using it? And you can see here some of those reasons, lacking training, not having the necessary technology, and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is that it's a hard policy to sell archiving email to decision makers in an organization if you don't have a supportable technology solution at hand. And that's, in my opinion, where PDF comes in, because every organization is familiar with PDF, they're comfortable with it, they will preserve it, unlike a specific XML-based file format, which some of the other organizations we were looking at were using. PDF is also strongly supported because procurement processes in state archives and places like that are very familiar with PDF, and they're not as familiar with the open source tooling that this archiving community might use. So, in fact, of those preserving email in the Illinois sample, most were already using PDF. Granted, this is only 8 responses out of 68, but it's important that they told us this in a free text response. We hadn't sort of asked them, about PDF specifically. Okay, so maybe this convinces you, maybe not, that PDF is a feasible format for email and that there would be demand within the community. But perhaps you're wondering, well, why not just use PDF-A? And PDF-A is great. We love it. We use it in the library community extensively, as you can imagine. But it's really on its own insufficient to the task of email. It's necessary but not sufficient. So we can build on top of what PDF-A already does well. If you convert an email today to PDF ad hoc, part of the vital rendering information that may be in the message, as well as the contextual metadata, are more than likely going to be left out, as will be attachments, as will be linked content. So how should those things be handled? How should digital signatures be handled? Our argument is that by standardizing the way that these editions are encoded in a format that's already used in the archives and library community, that is PDF-A, we can fill in the gaps and have a technology solution that really preserves whatever vital historical evidence there is for email interrogation and use 50, 100, 200 years potentially down the road. Okay, so here's a simple slide showing current PDF functionality that you get if you print to PDF out of your email client. And I don't really want to pick on Google too much here, but I will anyway, because you're really just getting the visible part of the message. The header is visible, the body of the message is there, but any of that core metadata that tells you about the sender, the recipient, the date sent, all of the materials that are in the source message are missing. You also are going to have very spotty conversion of attachments. Links may or may not remain active. Even if they do, the content that's at them is probably not there any longer or missing. So our argument is that we can do better for that, and we're really looking for something that takes the fluidity of email and fixes it into a PDF-based format so that it's a preservable object of some sort. Which leads me to phase 2 of the project, with about $250,000 of funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the University of Illinois. That is essentially me, because I'm representing the university, are working with the PDF Association and have a PDF mail liaison working group that we've established. We have, the desire to build on the goals from the Phase 1 project for what we're now calling PDF Mail. So the goals of this project in Phase 2, as you can see, are essentially to foster and nurture this academic industry partnership that I see as critical, and also to develop a detailed technical specification for what we're now calling the PDF mail file format. And I've just been learning so much and just benefiting so much from Peter's technical expertise, in particular contributions of many of you in this room as well. Okay, so this just provides you a screenshot of what an EAP, a prospective EAPDF viewer might look like. You can see I use Mac, and I just took a screenshot of my Mac application. On the left pane here, you have a context menu, which could be used to emulate the ways in which a typical email client application works. On the top, you have a list of messages that are available and EAPDF metadata. And then in the main large panel, you have a very provisional and very aspirational, if you will, PDF mail compliant file being rendered as the core representation. So this just gives you some idea of what a viewer application might look like. I suggest this because the existing applications that the archival community has available look nothing like this. Now, if you were an end user of an email collection, wouldn't you like something that looks a lot more like the viewing experience that you're used to? My argument is yes, you very much would. So I'd like to just end here by giving a shout out to my partners, and I've included here only the ones from the archive side of this conversation. These are all institutions that are at the table. You'll see the National Archives here, you'll see Harvard, you'll see other universities, you'll see the Smithsonian, you'll see the Library of Congress. All these people are not exactly endorsing EAPDF or PDF mail because they don't know what to endorse yet, but they're helping to define what that format might look like, and they're very interested in this project and following it closely. So thank you very much, and with that, I will turn things over to Peter, who will go much deeper into the technical details than I would ever be able to.
So as Chris has been explaining, we have a liaison working group running through the PDF Association. Liaison working groups are open to both members and non-members, and specifically the non-members are the archival community, as Chris is demonstrating here. Sorry, Chris, were you using this?
No, I wasn't, but I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay. So what I want to do today is not go too deep into the technology, but maybe because we're in the middle stream, but to give you an overview of the directions and some of the challenges that are faced in preparing PDF suitable to email. So my role has been to listen to the archival community, to solicit and capture all their requirements regarding email preservation, and to draft the PDF mail file format specification to best address as many use cases and requirements as possible. Chris's team will then take this specification and use it to create some open source software, as he mentioned. So in the time remaining, I hope to give you a quick overview of what PDF mail entails, at least for a few core features, and the main use cases relating to email preservation that Chris touched on. So let's cover some terminology. EAPDF is an encapsulating concept that describes all aspects of the preservation of email. It covers the file format specification itself, the use cases and scenarios around using archived email, policy and procedural settings for creation and management of email. We've discussed freedom of information requests and redaction, all these things in the life cycle of a PDF email archive. And of course, the PDF software, which Chris will be working on. One particularly important requirement that has driven several design decisions in the file format itself is what has been referred to as the legacy viewing experience. And this is where we're using today's PDF technology that is not aware of EAPDF, and it can be made to provide some basic functionality and utility for the archival community if we make certain design decisions. So PDF Mail is the name of the PDF Association's industry specification for the archival of email. PDF M would be the potential future ISO equivalent to PDF mail. This will hopefully be a fast-tracked adoption of the PDF mail specification. And note that we purposely avoided PDF email because PDF-E is an existing ISO standard for the engineering community, and this is something we've only came to realise in recent months. So this naming convention, where we use longer names or words for industry specifications and uppercase letters for ISO standards, mirrors exactly how the PDF Association's PDF raster specification became the PDF-R ISO standard 23504. And of course, you are all familiar with PDF-A, PDF-X, PDF-VT, PDF-UA, PDF-VCR, and PDF-E. So of course, this follows the unwritten rules of naming conventions. So PDF mail is a subset exactly like PDF-A, PDF-X, or PDF-UA. Due to email attachments and other requirements identified by the Liaison Working Group, there is a heavy technical dependence on arbitrary embedded files that need to be stored inside the PDF mail file. This means that PDF mail has a strong alignment with PDF A3, defined by ISO 19005, Part 3, 2012, and with conformance level PDF A4F from ISO 19005, Part 4, 2020. So this supports actually both PDF 1.7 based technologies and PDF 2 based technologies as the base technology. Strong alignment also means that PDF mail files can also multiply conform to PDF-X or PDF-UA standards should that be required, but it is certainly not mandated. The PDF mail specification has both file format requirements as well as a limited number of processor requirements, just like PDF-A and the other subset standards. Unlike previous PDF specifications, I have also tried to capture the why behind each technical design choice in the file format. So why did we choose PDF feature X over feature Y? Why did we mandate X? Why did we prohibit or limit X, etc.? You may see a correlation there to my keynote this morning. And this is so we have some lightweight traceability back to the use cases, scenarios, and requirements, something that, in my opinion, is sorely missing from other ISO standards. There are also some advisory notes to help the software implementers coming from an email background that don't have much knowledge about PDF, as well as the usual notes and so forth on the file format itself. Due to the breadth of issues with email and the varied use cases discussed inside the LWG, many requirements need to be expressed as shoulds, meaning a strong recommendation, rather than shalls. Just like our other subsets, PDF mail does not prescribe content appearance details or algorithms that convert email to PDF pages. Simple examples include the need to preserve draft emails before they are sent, where maybe there is no subject, no to, or no body. And everyone hopefully appreciates that every email client, whether it be cloud-based or a thick client, is free to choose its own look and feel appearance in relation to showing email headers or graphics associated with the sender and how attachment to emails are presented to users. This is not even standardised in email and is certainly not going to be standardised in PDF mail. So PDF mail is a similar concept to Zugthird or Order X or Fracture X used for e-invoicing and related financial workflows, which use PDF A3 as a foundational technology and additionally define domain-specific aspects for greater applicability for their specific industry. In terms of what you may call conformance levels, or I think more appropriate for PDF mail will be profiles, there are three main use cases. A single email with all its attachments, header fields and bodies in a single PDF, the simple case, or PDF mail 1S. Email is defined by a very flexible and extensive structured text format with header and body portions, where the headers that you see on your PC are just a small fraction of what is in the email content, as Chris alluded to. Multiple emails in a single PDF, but where all the emails do not have any hierarchical or folder-like structure, such as an mbox file, because an mbox file is really just a simple concatenation of multiple text-based emails in their raw text form. This will be PDF mail-1M. The most complex is the container profile, as it will contain one or more PDF mail files. You can think of this as the result of preserving someone's entire email client with various hierarchical folders, including the usual sent, draft, spam folders, as well as any other custom organisation that person may have just done to organise and sort their own personal emails. The full hierarchy and folder names all need to be preserved and provide a similar experience when viewed using a PDF viewer. The initial work mentioned by Chris indicated the great importance that metadata and meta-information plays in preserving email. Obviously, PDF Mail will use XMP for storing all metadata, just like all the other PDF subsets, with the basic EA PDF metadata expressed in a compatible manner to the other subsets. Remember that XMP is an extensible metadata format, so this might be supplemented further by the likes of EAXML schema, as used by the demonstration Digital Archive email system, or Darkmail from Chris, Premise, the work of the Smithsonian that Chris mentioned, and they've done some great work on mapping email headers and making it consistent across systems, or anything else specific to the needs of email preservation defined by the archivists. In the same way that each PDF subset has their own namespace, PDF Mail will have a new XMP namespace, PDF Mail. Not every email header will be transformed to XMP, as there can be many, and there may be additional metadata for things like account, folder, or message metadata mappings, as well as the usual provenance, policy settings, conversion reports, etc. Thus, it is likely that the XMP metadata will not only exist at the document level of a PDF mail file, but XMP objects may well be attached to specific objects within the PDF mail file. Attachments to emails are, of course, critical to the preservation and understanding of email. PDF Mail faces several challenges, such as stripped out attachments, a thing we all experience nowadays with email clients if sent an executable or something like that. Zero-length attachments may occur due to corrupted emails, and the unconstrained nature and size of what can be sent by an email as well. Embedded associated files are a key feature of both PDF A3 and PDF A4F. The raw email file, whether that be a single EML file, a concatenation of EML files that form an mbox, or some proprietary vendor-specific format such as PST or OST files used by Microsoft Outlook, will also need to be preserved inside the PDF mail at the document level as an associated file. These will then have an AF relationship of source, one of the predefined relationships, since it is effectively the source of the resultant PDF mail file. When converting a rich HTML email body to PDF, various assets might be encountered which are not natively supported by PDF. Think of an animated GIF or a PNG image. Or it may be that the email asset is from a URL and the archival policy setting is to retrieve those assets so that a fuller appearance can be captured and archived. Either way, the raw HTML asset may need to be saved as an associated file. Again, this would be an AF relationship of source, since the animated GIF is the original source of the PDF image X object that is now possibly a DCD decode or FLATE decode kind of image. Or there are some PGP keys that need to be preserved. Basically, there are lots of potential to have many kinds of embedded files and associated files inside PDF Mail to ensure that mail is fully and correctly preserved. Navigational aids are especially important for providing basic utility with non-EA PDF aware software, what I refer to as legacy software. For example, outlines or bookmarks can be used to navigate to various pages. File attachment annotations, typically represented by a paperclip on screen, can be added to PDF pages and are widely supported by legacy viewers. Providing this functionality allows attachments to be extracted and saved using the file names stored in the PDF. But not all PDF viewers have nice panes with the list of all attachments. So moving on to some of the challenges. One of the main challenges of PDF Mail is providing meta information about the origin of each PDF page. Email is a continuous or unpaginated format, so a single long email will generate multiple PDF pages. If an email has multiple bodies, such as both an HTML body and a textual body, there is no requirement that each body is identical in length, and in fact it is probable they are not, because the way that text needs to display a URL, whereas an HTML will have images and other rich content. This means that a single email can generate multiple pages for each body, but the page count for each body can be different. So how do humans, meaning the archivist interacting with an EA PDF file in a viewer, and machines, meaning batch or non-interactive EA PDF processing software, understand this duplicity? Well, PDF VT first introduced the concept of document part metadata with DPART and DPM dictionaries. PDF2 later adopted these features in a more generic manner, so this is an existing core PDF feature that assists in providing standardised meta information for understanding the origin of each page in a multi-page PDF mail file. Another challenge has been the page appearance. What you see when you look at an email in an email client is a combination of what the email client has decided, shown here in the green box, what the actual email content contained, shown here in the blue box. The blue box is, for example, a conversion of continuous HTML to paginated PDF, a well-known problem with numerous solutions for conversion to PDF, or text to PDF, so where the EA PDF Aware software has to make numerous additional appearance decisions about typeface, layout, and there is some ambiguity over line endings and text-based emails, etc. The green box, however, is decided entirely by email software, and thus will also be performed by EA PDF creation software. It is really a pretty printing rendering of email headers, possibly including other information from a user's address book or additional knowledge of specific email headers. And if semantics of text emails is required, then there are additional complexities. There are, of course, purely pagination artifacts such as headers or footers that might get added so that an arbitrary extracted page has a visible known context. The PDF mail specification thus needs to be simultaneously flexible in the file format while not overly prescriptive for content and processor requirements. For the container profile of PDF email that I previously mentioned, later PDF versions support a feature known as portable collections, sometimes presented to users as portfolios. This provides a full hierarchical folder capability for embedded files and thus is a very appropriate technical feature. However, a limitation of most current software is that recursive text searching of embedded files is often limited or not supported at all. And this was expressed as a strong need by the liaison working group and thus will be a key feature needed in future EA PDF software developed by Chris's group. Finally, and what should be obvious from any mention of so many types of embedded files, associated files, large metadata, etc., is a consideration for PDF file size. Modern PDF technologies should all be compressed using cross-reference streams and compressed object streams, so this will be a strong recommendation. For those that use Microsoft Outlook, you're probably aware that PST and OST files can be many, many gigabytes. So in this case, the equivalent PDF mail container file will undoubtedly also be very large. In the cases of huge archives of pure text emails, I'm sure there will also be ongoing discussions about the need to embed all fonts. Any PDF Association member may join the PDF Liaison working group via the member area, once logged in under your PDFA account. You will then receive all LWG emails, calendar invitations to our fortnightly virtual meetings, and access to the shared Google Drive with past recordings of all our meetings, past presentations, and other documentation artifacts produced by the LWG members. Non-members with expertise or professional interest in email technology can also join us by sending an email to info@pdfa.org and requesting to join. Agreement to abide by the PDF Association's intellectual property rights, or IPR policy, and code of conduct is required for all working group members. Our IPR policy is an exact mirror of the ISO IPR policy to ensure that industry specifications developed by the PDF Association, such as PDF Mail, can become official international standards in the future.